Welcome back to Luce Talk. We're here this week in South Beach, Miami, the largest city in one of the 2 or 3 most important swing states for the upcoming November election. And in 2008, Florida was a major part of the national sweep that Obama had to win the White House. Then the focus was very much on whether then Senator Obama could get the elderly Jewish vote that's so heavily concentrated around Miami. But in 2012, the real focus is on the Hispanic vote, not just here in Florida, but in other critical swing states like Virginia and Colorado. Earlier this month, President Obama made his very aggressive gambit for the Hispanic vote by issuing a waiver, essentially, on illegal Hispanics in America under the age of 30 from deportation. Up to 1 million could benefit from this waiver. And then last week, both candidates spoke at what is the most important annual Latino convention here in Orlando, Florida, in their bid to try and woo the Hispanic vote.
The question is, what vision are we going to stand up for? Who are we going to fight for?
So the really key question facing Governor Romney is that given the very hard line he took on immigration during the Republican primaries, where he even talked about the self-deportation of America's estimated 11 million illegal aliens, can he tack back sufficiently to the center to persuade Hispanics he didn't mean what he said?
Y él tiene la experiencia como gobernador
But
de
of course, the
Massachusetts.
Hispanic American vote is far from being monolithic, not just nationally or even statewide in Florida, but here in Miami. There are very different Hispanic communities. Just a short while away from here in Little Havana, Cuban Americans and Cuban exiles would be the first to point out there are very many different kinds of Hispanic voter.
See, just because we speak the language doesn't necessarily mean that we all have the same goals or following the same aims. Not necessarily. I think that Mexicans are pretty much have their own problems that they're trying to face and deal with as we do. We Cuban Americans in Florida, we do care about the national elections and the local elections, but more than anything else, we're looking southbound. We're always looking 90 miles away from Key West. But, like I said before, we also have to send our kids to school and we have to pay taxes here.
Even if Mitt Romney is able to come up with some kind of effective riposte to President Obama's deportation waiver, he still risks alienating his base. We're here at the Globe restaurant in downtown Coral Gables, where the Young Republicans, the Miami Young Republicans, hold their monthly meeting in a back room. And here's what some of them had to say about the issue.
It's surprising how much Hispanics actually do agree with the Republican Party. But in order to really tap into that new resource for votes, Mitt Romney really needs to hammer the fact that the Republican Party really mirrors the views of most Hispanics when it comes to social issues. And finally, I think he needs to visit the Hispanic community, not just sending his deputies out to the field, but himself going to the Latino community.
I think the impact of the immigration issue in the Hispanic population, the Hispanic voting population, and the population in general is overstated. No matter what your point of origin is, you have the same concerns at the end of the day. Immigration is something that factors into it, but I don't know that it'll play the role that everybody thinks it does.
While Mitt Romney faces that classic dilemma of keeping the base enthused while simultaneously appealing to the floating voter, Barack Obama's goal is more straightforward, namely to enthuse the base constituencies that helped deliver him to power in 2008, among whom, of course, the gay community, young college-educated Americans, and Hispanic voters are critical. And so tonight, in a very typical cool Obama event, the president's going to be hosting the famous Latino singer Mark Anthony here at this classic Art Deco theater behind me.
I think, it's going to make a huge impact in the Hispanic vote because, there's tons of people that came here as children and were raised here, educated here, and want to continue their education and contribute to this country too.
What about Governor Romney? Do you think he can regain credibility with the Hispanic communities?
I don't think he can, because he never states a position. He bounces from one middle position to another middle position that he never, exactly states what he thinks about the issues. And, he takes a convenient position every time something happens. So I don't think, he's going to get any votes from the Hispanic community.
Which brings us to our odd moment of the week. Last weekend, Mitt Romney held what became known quickly as the Republican Palooza, a vast fundraising event for people who'd either personally given $50,000 to his campaign or raised $250,000 in Park City, Utah, home of Mormonism and, of course, a solid bastion of Republicanism. Now, interestingly enough, just before the event, which was considered one of the most exclusive fundraising events in the history of presidential fundraising, Newt Gingrich, Mitt Romney's one-time rival for the Republican nomination, was asked why Romney got it and he didn't. And he said, Romney had 16 billionaires, I only had one. Well, most of those billionaires were with Romney in Utah. See you next week on Loose Talk.